This is Note Taking Guide 6.9. This is the last section of our geometry unit, and we're going to do more with parallel and perpendicular lines today. So let's just review again a couple of things. Parallel lines have slopes that are the same as each other. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals or negative reciprocals of each other. So when we're looking at slopes and they tell us that we need to do something parallel, we're going to use the same slope. When they tell us we need to do something perpendicular, we have to flip that slope upside down, as well as change the positive or negative sign on it. If it's positive, we're changing it to negative. If it's negative, we're changing it to positive. So, a couple of other things to review here. Slope-intercept form. That's y equals mx plus b. That's my go-to form, you guys. I love that form. That's the one that I love to solve all my equations with. I think it's the easiest method. Standard form is when you have your x's and your y's on the same side together and then only your numbers over there by themselves. Okay, so I really just kind of like to always go to this form, and then if I have to write it in standard form, I just go and change it to standard form. So that's the way I'm going to teach you how to do it. You might have had a teacher who's shown you a different way. If you want to use a different way, that's okay. I just think it makes more sense to teach you one way and show you how to manipulate that equation to other ways than it does to show you so many different ways that you can't figure out which one you're supposed to use. So I'm still going to do this y equals mx plus c plus this y equals mx plus b form. And then I'm just going to change it so my x's and my y's are on the same side of the equation, so it's in that standard form together. All right, so it says write an equation in standard form that meets the given conditions. So given the equation y equals 1/3 x minus 1, find an equation parallel, which means we're using the same slope, that goes through the point 912. So if you remember the other day, I showed you how to do that with y equals mx plus b form, where we substituted the 12 in for the y. We're using the same slope, so 1/3 in for the slope. The 9 goes in for the x, and we're just going to solve for b, and we'll have that equation. So 1/3 times 9 is 3. So we're going to subtract that 3 over to the other side, and when we do that, we get our b value as 9. So my equation in the form I like to use is y equals 1/3, because my slope is 1/3 x plus 9. Well, in this problem, it asked me to go to standard form, which is this form over here where my x's and my y's have to be on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to have to actually subtract that 1/3 x over to the other side so that it's all together. And then I have a problem, like in standard form, you're not supposed to have fractions. So I have that 3 there. In order to get that 3 off the bottom of the fraction, I have to times my entire equation through by 3. So I'm going to get 3y minus x equals 27. And then that's pretty much in standard form. You guys, in real life, I'm supposed to have the x first, so it should be negative x plus 3y equals 27. And that would be the standard form for that first problem. Like I said, I just prefer to use this form and then manipulate my equation when I'm done. So, and if you've been taught a different way, feel free to use that other way if you prefer it. Okay, so that was number 1. I'm going to erase this, so if you need to keep writing on this, give this video a pause so that you don't lose this information. All right. So I'm going to my next one here. Just needed to create some space to work. It says, given the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 3, write an equation perpendicular to it that passes through a -1. Again, we got to be in standard form. But my preferred method is y equals mx plus b. It's just the way I like to do it. So my y value is -1. My slope, I have to be perpendicular to 2. So I'm going to be a -1/2. How? Because I flipped it upside down and I changed the sign on it. I'm also going to times by 8 here for my x value, and then I'm going to solve for b. I keep putting an equals there sign instead of a plus sign, but it's plus. So I get -1 equals -4 plus b. Add the 4 to the other side, and b equals 3. So my equation that I'm writing here, and I'm just going to come over and write it back over on this side over here, is going to be y equals my new slope, which is a -1/2 x, and then plus 3. Now this is not in standard form. I need my x's and my y's together over there. This is a negative 1/2 x, so I'm going to add it to the other side. When I add it to the other side, it really just moves over there as 1/2 x plus y equals 3. The last thing I need to do is get rid of that 2 because I can't have a fraction, so I'm going to times the whole equation through by 2. When I do that, I get x plus 2y equals 6. Again, just that's the way I like to do it, you guys. All right, next one. Line D contains the point 18,7 and is parallel to a line that passes through this point. Write an equation in slope-intercept form, which is my preferred way to do it. That represents line D. Okay, so we know we have to go through this point and we have to get our slope from this point, these 2 points. So a long time ago, we had a slope equation that we worked with, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we're going to plug these 2 into that slope formula. Here's my x in my first point, my y in my first point, my x in my second point, my y in my second point. So I'm just going to plug those in. So I'm going to go 1 minus 7 over 3 minus 1. That'll be a negative 6 over 2, which is a negative 3. So this is my slope. My slope is negative 3. So when I go back in and I substitute into y equals mx plus b, I'm using my slope as negative 3. I'm using my x and my y as 18 and 7. So 7 equals negative 3 times 18 plus b. So 7 equals negative 3 times 18 is a negative 54 plus b. I have to add that 54 to the other side. So that's 61 equals b. So my equation is going to be y equals negative 3x plus 61. That's kind of ugly, but that's how it's going to work. All right, if you need more time to write that down, pause the video because I'm going to switch the page now, you guys. All right, next problem. Line J contains the point negative 12,6 and is perpendicular to this slope. So we're going to find the slope, we're going to flip it upside down, change the sign, and then you do our y equals mx plus b stuff with it. So again, slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Just going to plug those in. So I'll go negative 1 minus negative 3 over 4 minus 12. Just let your calculator solve that. On the top you get 2. On the bottom you get negative 8. Your calculator is going to tell you that's a negative 1/4. And I need it perpendicular to that, so I have to flip that upside down and do the opposite. So the slope I'm using is going to be 4. Then I'm going to substitute into my y equals mx plus b formula with my ordered pair up here. So negative 6 equals 4 times negative 12 plus b. Negative 6 equals negative 48 plus b. Add the 48 to the other side. I get 42 equals b. So my equation with my slope is 4x plus 42. All right, next one. Graph a line that is parallel to the line graphed and passes through the point negative 2, negative 3. So let's just graph negative 2, negative 3 first so we know where we're heading. So we're right here. Now if I have to graph a line that's parallel to this, I need to know the slope because I need to follow the same slope. So my slope on this is I rise 2 and I run 3. So I've got to rise 2 and I've got to run 3. My line has to go through those ordered pairs in order to be parallel. So then it says write an equation for this new line that I wrote. Well, I know I didn't do a very good job getting my line where it was supposed to be, but it crosses through right here in negative 1. So my b value is at negative 1 because that's my y-intercept. My slope value, we counted it, it was 2 over 3. So my equation is going to be my slope times x plus my b value, which in this case is a -1. So find your slope, count it, draw it through that point, and then you can just easily write your equation from there. All right, last one. It says graph a line that's perpendicular, so that's opposite reciprocal slope to the line graphed that passes through the point -3, -4. So we're going -3, -4, which is right here. And then we got to go perpendicular to this slope. So this slope is down 3/2. So down 3/2. I have to flip that upside down and change the sign. So my slope is going to be 2/3. So from this point I count up 2 and I go over 3 and do a new point. I go up 2 and over 3 I do a new point. So my line goes through those ordered pairs like that. It should look like it forms a 90-degree angle with the other line, which it does. Then it says write the equation of the line. Well, I know that mine passed through -2, which was my b value. This is my slope value. So if I'm plugging into y equals mx plus b, I'm going to be y equals 2/3 x minus 2. There she is, you guys. That's the end of this chapter. So come see me if you have questions. You have a test coming up soon, so get ready for that test. Ask me questions if you need to. Thanks for watching. Good luck on your homework.